Joining us for an alumni spotlight, class of 2013, Tommy Meier. Tommy, thanks for taking some time out to join us.
Thank you, Daryl. I appreciate it. It's good to be with you guys.
Tommy played baseball here when he graduated. He left as the school's all-time leader in hits as a catcher, all-conference player in the Mid-South Conference. You earned a Gold Glove. But Tommy, before we get into that, we'll start with your journey to UVA Wise. I know originally you had plans on going to another institution, but you ended up making your way down to Southwest Virginia. So give the folks a little bit about your background and kind of your journey to UVA Wise.
Yeah, Daryl, I was born and raised up here in Ashburn, Virginia, in Northern Virginia. And my freshman year of college, actually out of high school, I had attended West Virginia, or WVU. And I had gone there to play baseball as a walk-on. I walked on and I made the team at the August tryouts. They had two separate cuts between August and February. I made the cut in September and October, and was led to believe, when I was practicing with them and working out with them and playing in their off-season games, that I was going to be a full-time member of the roster. And lo and behold, second week of February in 2009, a week before the Big Ten Invitational, our head coach let me know that I was not going to be kept on the final spring roster. So that kind of came out of nowhere. But I knew, like, on that day that I definitely wanted to continue playing baseball. And it just so happens that the same day that I kind of got cut from WVU and emailed my high school baseball coach and let him know what happened, he said, "Well, I just got an email from an assistant coach named Eric Lemley at UVA Wise and said that they were looking for a catcher." And I had gone to a couple of other visits that same spring, 2009, to some other schools. And the last visit I made was to UVA Wise. And I want to say it was right around this time, like, late March, early April 2009, I visited UVA Wise for the first time. And it definitely was the right place for me.
Well, we're glad you made it down here. You had a successful career. You're part of a conference championship winning team. You come from an athletic family. We'll start talking about that conference championship team and maybe some memories that you have from that and kind of how that season progressed.
Oh my God. Where do I start with those guys? Well, first off, I'll tell you probably the best pitching staff I think I ever got the opportunity to play with. And just from whether it was a player or a coach's perspective, I mean, when you're running out kids like Scott Cole, Ryan Crosby, Josh Jacobs, just the arms that we had as a part of our staff, you throw Chris Smith in there, Cody Bentley. We were as competitive of a bunch on the mound as anybody I saw in the 4 years that I played at Wise. So definitely pitching and defense was kind of the backbone of that team. I remember we had some pretty tough losses early. But once we found out about halfway through that season, that 2011 season, we found out that we had a shot at the championship. It was kind of just like a light bulb went off, a switch went off in our clubhouse, and we just got after it. Our bats were cold that whole early spring, and it just turned into, we had some timely hitting that second half of the season. And again, as long as you had strong pitching and defense, we knew that we were going to be in every game. We just had to find a way to scratch a couple more runs off than the other teams that we were playing against. But it was fun. That second half of the season was a whirlwind. Some of the games we found ourselves in, whether it was against Shawnee State or Rio Grande or whoever, said they were dogfights. And again, our pitching led us all the way from beginning to end and found a way to get a ring at the very end of the season.
Well, we'll circle back to this a little bit later. I always think it's interesting the amount of people in baseball who are catchers who end up coaching. But we'll circle back and start with, your dad's a coach. Did you always know you wanted to be a coach?
Yeah.
How did that begin? And maybe some things that you learned as a high school player, college player, that's kind of helped you as a coach?
I always knew I wanted to be a coach. I mean, you're right. I said my dad was a head high school football coach up here in Northern Virginia for 25 years. And not only him, both of his older brothers, both of my uncles, my Uncle Danny, my Uncle Jamie Meier, they're both head high school football coaches. And really, I always thought, kind of growing up, I thought that I was going to be a high school football coach. I mean, that was just kind of, I spent, some of my best memories growing up were, Friday night football games, on the sidelines with my dad. I never, I guess, realized I wanted to be a baseball coach until I got to play for Coach Banner at UVA Wise. And I kind of I always had kind of like a football mentality when I was playing baseball, especially when I was young, in kind of my younger years at Wise. And I think Coach Banner teaching me how to kind of contain that, emotional side or aggressive side of the football mentality, and using that the right way in baseball, and actually really learning the game of baseball. That really influenced me to kind of change my path and switch to wanting to be a high school baseball coach. And again, I was lucky enough to play for Coach Banner for 4 years. I mean, a lot of kids will say I learned that they learned to play the game of baseball from their dads or from their uncles, this or that. I learned to play baseball from, Hank Banner. And then having the opportunity right out of UVA Wise to coach down in Southwest Virginia at Union High School and coach for J.W. Salyers at Union. I had such a positive experience coaching down there in Big Stone Gap that I was dead set. I said I coached at Union High School down there in spring of 2014, and I knew that this is what I wanted to do, 100%. So it's interesting how I kind of grew up thinking I was going to be a high school football coach, and how my experience down in Southwest Virginia really changed that, and really made me geared towards wanting to be a high school baseball coach.
You become a high school baseball coach up there at Broad Run. You guys are coming off a state championship last year. Is there any situation or situations, either from your playing days or your time working with Coach Salyers at Union, or with Coach Banner, Coach Lemley, that really sticks out to you that you called upon during that state championship run that you made last year to win the state title?
Well, first, I mean, really kind of understanding to think about I really learned from Coach Banner and Coach Lemley especially, to kind of have this killer instinct to be in the moment, kind of be where your feet are, and focus on the game within the game. Focus on the mini battles that go on within the game, whether it's as a hitter, it's a one-on-one battle between that hitter and that pitcher. But also as a hitter, when you got base runners on, think about the situation. Is this an opportunity to move a runner over? Is this an opportunity to small ball? Is this an opportunity to steal a bag? Is this an opportunity to get a run in? Should we hit the ball on the ground on this play? Should we hit the ball in the air on this play? The importance of pitching and defense. I said when I got to UVA Wise, I was amazed at our pitching staff and the velocity that our pitching staff had. But kind of hearing Coach Banner and Coach Bates, our pitching coach, preach throwing strikes over velocity, I kind of take that mentality into it now. I said our best pitchers last year for my state championship team, they weren't the hardest throwers. They were the most consistent strike throwers. The kids that can control a fastball, their breaking ball and their changeups, throwing 3 pitches for a strike. Really going back to understanding the game, understanding the situations within the game, giving the players just enough information that they need at the time, not getting too up or too down on yourself, learning to kind of turn the page and move on. A lot of those lessons I hadn't learned until I had the opportunity to play at UVA Wise and have the opportunity to play for people like Coach Banner, Coach Lemley, Coach Bates, and learn to coach under J.W. Salyers.
Well, there's something else we're probably talk about. You as a catcher, the pitch comes into you and you obviously signal it to the pitcher. Speak on that a little bit, and how your 4 years behind the plate in the college program has helped you now as a coach, determining what pitch to throw in a count, how to read hitters, things of that nature, that experience, and how it's helped you as a coach.
Well, it was interesting, which before I'd gotten to Wise, I never had the opportunity to really call pitches or work with a pitcher one-on-one. and how to approach different hitters and different counts. But what was cool about coaching for or playing for Coach Bates at Wise was I had the opportunity a lot of times to work just one-on-one with the pitcher, and we would work and constantly communicate within the game how we were going to attack hitters after their first at bat, going into their second, their third, their fourth at bat. I learned a lot from kids I played with, like Chris Smith out of Castlewood, Cody Bentley, Justin Wilson, both out of JJ Kelly. I learned a lot about how to approach hitters and watch different tendencies that hitters have. What kind of hinge do they have with their front half? What do they do with their front foot? What kind of hand load do they have? Do they load their hands free? Do they load them behind their head? Do they load them behind their body? Where do they stand in the box? What kind of timing does the hitter have? And kind of learning and again, from the people that were around me at Wise, how to approach different hitters within our conference. I do that now because now information is everywhere. I mean, every high school kid's got video of themselves hitting or pitching or fielding online somewhere. So I remember just going into some of our playoff games last year, when I didn't have game video available to kind of study on one of our opponents, heck, I just hop on Instagram or Twitter and all their hitting videos that they've posted over the last year are right there. And I think back to, being at in the breakfast halls or our hotel rooms on a road trip and going over starting lineup for one of our opponents with Justin Wilson and figuring out, hey, we're gonna start off with off speed with this hitter and come back in and throw him an inside fastball here to finish him up. This hitter will chase something high. This kid will chase something down in the dirt. I really kind of reflect back on those moments with my teammates, with my coaches, and it 100% applies to what I do now when it comes to scouting out one of our opponents or how to approach a hitter in a specific game. I feel like that's one of my strong suits is kind of scouting an opponent's offensive lineup and how to go after each hitter. What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And I said from the relationships I had at UVA Wise, that's how I've kind of developed that strength.
All right, we'll talk about academia here a little bit. You come down to UVA Wise, you get your degree. Tell folks what your degree's in, what you're teaching now at Broad Run, and maybe similar some things you learned from some professors and how you've applied that to your students.
I don't know if I have enough time to thank all the professors who kind of reined me in when I was over there at UVA Wise. But so at Broad Run now, I'm a U.S. government and politics teacher, and I've taught all the other core history disciplines in the last 8 years. I've taught U.S. and Virginia history. I've taught modern World II history and ancient world history. But when I was at Wise, I graduated with a major in history and a minor in secondary and special education. So with those classes I was taking, I was grateful to have an advisor in Dr. Tom Costa, who I probably caused more headaches than I'd like to admit for him, but he stuck with me, always believed in me. I worked closely and was mentored by Preston Mitchell in the teacher's education program. And I said, Mr. Mitchell had an unbelievable influence on me, both as a teacher and a coach. Dr. Cynthia Wilkie, again, I got to apologize for the headaches I caused in her classes as well. But I said how much I learned from her and the courses I took in the history department there. It was extremely impactful. I said I was always an athlete first, growing up in middle school and high school, and my first, probably year or two at UVA Wise. But the influence that people like Dr. Costa and Mr. Mitchell had on me, it was unbelievable. And by the time I got to my senior year, I finally, really began appreciating the education that I was receiving from UVA Wise and the small classroom settings when you really got to know your professors and your professors really had a strong influence on you and let you know that they care about you and they cared about me. Growing up, people always cared about me from an athletic stance, but having professors at Wise that really showed that they cared about me as a student, as a future teacher and coach, and as a person, had a profound effect on me and my whole outlook on education in general. I said I remember being at classes at WVU in a lecture hall of 400 kids and not learning a darn thing. But getting to UVA-wise and being in those small class settings, and having more kind of tough, more intimate conversations, Socratic seminar type deliberate discussion conversations in class, it had just an unbelievable effect on me as a person, as a student, and again as a future educator.
Tommy, we'll take it full circle here. You know, you talked about that championship team. You guys got off to a slow start, and we got down there to the end of the season, and we had to win every game. You know, from what I recall.
That's the truth.
And we played a series here at home, caught a couple breaks, ended up winning it. To me, it's very similar. A lot of people may not know this. Most baseball tournaments are double elimination. For whatever reason, the Virginia High School League is single elimination for baseball.
Yep.
Talk about that a little bit, and maybe how you could draw back on some of those experiences toward the end of the year and winning that regular season championship as a player, and then as a coach, and every game's do or die, especially with the COVID year.
Yeah, that's the truth. It's kind of funny how the spring of 2011, when we won that championship in the Mid-South, it seemed like up until that time, the time had gone by so fast. And I think that second half of the 2011 season really made, when our team found out we had a chance, we really began appreciating every single practice, every single workout, every single inning of every single game. And I think that had a good influence on me as a future coach, because we go back to last season, 10 years later, in the state championship postseason. You know, normally you said you get to the district championship or the region championship, you had an automatic bid to regionals or states. That wasn't the case last year. So we were, every single game we played, once we got to June last year, was high stakes, win or go home. And I think that's where I kind of go back to that motto of kind of being where your feet are. Don't worry about the past. It's over with. We can't control the future. All we can do is control right now and how we choose to respond. So I remember back when I was playing at Wise during that 2011 season, I remember me and my buddies, Brian King, Jonathan Cox, we were watching some SEC Network baseball at our townhouse one night during the season. And we saw one of the SEC coaches was talking about a sign that he had in the dugout. It said win, WIN, what's important now. And I remember us talking about that at Wise in 2011, about trying to win every pitch, win every at bat, win every inning. So no matter where we were, whether we were in the batter's box, on the mound, in the field, in the dugout, instead of focusing on what's already happened, instead of focusing on what could be in the future, what's important right now, all right? What can we control right now, here in the moment? Because this moment right now is all we're guaranteed. And I actually last season, when I was coaching, once we got to that regional championship, I broke out that kind of win sign. And I reminded our players about what's important right now, and just to kind of focus here, stay in the moment. Nothing in the future is guaranteed. Let's just take advantage of the time we have together right now.
What better way to end it than that, Tommy? We thank you for your time. Best of luck up there at Broad Run with your baseball program, and make it back down here to Wise sometime. We'll go out and have dinner, and hope you and your family are doing well.
Yes, sir. Same to you, Daryl. Looking forward to it. All right. Appreciate you guys. Go Cavs.